I'm Stuart Landon.
I'm Karen Ruch.
And we're here in the dressing room at Open Stage discussing the play Every Brilliant Thing with some of our brilliant friends.
Yes.
Looking forward to these wonderful conversations and to finding out what is on their lists. You can go to openstagehbg.com to find out more about Every Brilliant Thing and to secure tickets. But for now, enjoy a brilliant conversation. We're having a conversation with Nick and Patrick Hughes today. Now, Nick and Patrick have been friends of the theater for a very long time. Of course, Nick has played Scrooge for approximately 100 years, and Patrick has, for not quite so many, but for many, has played Nephew Fred, which is a show that you do with them.
I do. I get to be the ghost of Christmas present.
Again this year, too.
Talk about a brilliant thing.
I can't wait to see what their brilliant things are. So thank you so much for being here today. Really, really appreciate y'all stopping in here at Open Stage to discuss your list. We haven't had an interview with two people yet. So
Oh, no, we haven't.
No.
You folks are special.
You are.
Well, we are very special. It's brilliant.
That is a funny thing. I mean, the fact that it is Every Brilliant Thing because it was written by a British playwright.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Americanisms we've been struggling with. Britishisms versus the Americanisms. And brilliant is, of course, one of those very well-worn words.
Well, brilliant itself is a brilliant thing. It's a successor, I think, to super. Well, at least there's probably many things in between. Back in the 60s, super was, but brilliant is the new super. I've tried to bring it to the area.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's as ubiquitous as cool is in the States.
We're awesome.
Yeah.
We're fans of awesome.
Awesome.
In America.
Cool, awesome. Yeah.
Every awesome thing doesn't have the same ring to it.
No. So, of course, in the play, the character creates this list of brilliant things, things worth living for, things that are truly life-affirming. And I wondered if y'all might share with us what some of your brilliant things are. He has a couple of rules, and I think one of the most important ones is that his list is not presented in any particular order. There could be really, really important things on your brilliant list. And
but you don't have to rank them.
Well, I think, if I'm next to my father, I suppose one thing that I really think is brilliant is home-cooked meals together as a family.
But y'all also share a love of food on different levels. You've gardened together, and so cooking together must be extra special in that way.
Yeah, no,
growing your own food and eating it and sharing it is really brilliant.
yes, it really is. It makes it so much more special, and it's wonderful to watch things slowly grow to the point that you can pick them, eat them, and enjoy them, and share them.
Yes. As you grew up, we always kept chickens, and we'd have fresh eggs, and to collect your own eggs and cook them and eat them.
And have a garden where during the summer you'd be able to harvest vegetables and force them.
Yes, and
into
harvest them
work.
again and again, and then the dining room table gets so full that you have to find alternative means of distributing.
Race
your
against
vegetables. I mean, that's
race
brilliant.
against time before they all go off.
Did you preserve a lot of the produce when you were growing up?
Maybe twice a season, Ellen would get out the moolie to process the tomatoes,
And
huge quantities.
I was responsible for the bowl, and my brother was responsible for cranking it, and then my mother would be, chopping up the bad bits off the tomatoes, and we'd get this sort of machine going.
But before that happened, the whole dining room would be filled with tomatoes in various stages of decomposition.
So it is interesting that my brother and I both have our own little gardens, and I do think that it's part of that tradition. I don't think it would be right sort of to be in a home without having a garden going, because it feels so vital to living. It's such a way of self-regulation. I just think it's so important.
Well, yours and Huron's garden was wonderful. It's very much better looked after than mine, I think.
It's verdant.
Yes. Brilliant.
So we talked a little bit about obviously the shared meals and the gardening. What else might be on?
You think we have other interests?
Well, I mean, just assuming there might be some.
Just guessing.
Walks, I would say, has been something that we found to be brilliant. There's something about shared physical activity.
Going on a walk, yes, and with your puppy.
Yeah,
with your puppy. I mean, Charlie is brilliant. He's a young Jack Russell, and he's wonderful. And when he's very small, the smell of a puppy is really brilliant.
You know, I think looking after creatures that need us is such a family value, and I think a brilliant thing in and of itself. The delight in having somebody who's actually having a creature who looks up to you, and that you have to create its world for it, it's an awesome responsibility and a wonderful thing.
Well, it is. We have a huge population of backdoor birds who we recently were told we have to stop feeding, but today
Brilliantly came out.
Brilliant. We've been told that we're allowed to start feeding the birds
Because
again.
the disease is now ebbing away, and we can now have so bird feeders is another brilliant thing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
A live garden, a garden where creatures and birds and plants are thriving. I just thought of all the things. Since you brought me in here with my dad, I naturally think of the things that we used to do together as a family.
Oh, sure.
And we always just did stuff together as a family. I loved playing board games or card games together. And that was, I try to recreate that with my own family. Just this idea of spending time together as this unit of people who are working together for a common goal. Just making time to interact or have little fights or get mad at each other, because somebody's losing or winning at Monopoly is I think, what it's all about on some level. And I can trace that directly back to, I don't know, whatever you guys, your intentions were in terms of having us all do these things together.
Well, I'd say that's really nice to hear. That's brilliant.
But yeah, I mean, I also, the things that you crush me in, like chess and ping pong, I think those are great things too. Like I think I tolerated distress so much better just because he's always beats me in chess.
He didn't just let you win because you were the kid.
No, and I love that. And I'm not sure.
I tried to let you win. But
So, Patrick, being a therapist, I wondered if I might ask you, when it comes to, because the main character, the only character in this play, the character in the play, ends up creating the list as a young child to processing a traumatic event, and then throughout his life ends up revisiting that same list. But ultimately, what I think that this show does, and I don't think this is spoiling anything, but I think what this show does is it passes on that skill, or at least that, hey, here's a way to process things. In your practice, have you ever come across any sort of techniques like this when it comes to?
Well, I think that's what it's all about on some level. The whole finding of processing difficult emotions is the core of what human beings are sometimes in an isolated way, what we're really bad at. And the whole key is that everybody individually needs to find the things that can help them get through the contradictions that are happening in their own minds and find a way of making meaning out of whatever is meaningful to you. And I think that's the whole kit and caboodle, because if we don't do that, we have a tendency of having those emotions stick around and they get pushed inward, or they end up making it ungrounded for ourselves. And so the whole point is to find the things that for ourselves bring us our lives meaning. And I think on some level it's this kind of stuff where we get energy flowing, when we get positive emotions, negative emotions, where we put that stuff and we put our hands into the earth to let things grow, just end up becoming the ways that we can deal with life's horrible, traumatic contradictions.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you
for putting that so succinctly.
Exactly. That's what we've been exploring. It's just called Patrick.
Yeah, we should have just said, hey, Patrick, tell us what this play is about.
I don't know, is there something about the process of writing down and making a list which is a useful.
Could be. I mean,
is it one that you would recommend in?
Definitely, if somebody finds it useful. I think the whole idea of it is that for some people, some things are going to be brilliant, and for other things, they're not going to be. Some people love stress balls. For other people, it's like, what is this thing? And cast it away. But we all have to find our own individual brilliance in this universe. And I like the idea of creating a list, but of course there's millions and millions upon it, because it's going to be whatever people individually find salient, interesting, or useful.
Yes, but the process of actually turning it into a thought, which comes and goes and is more ephemeral, into something physical that when you write it down today, it's going to be there tomorrow, is useful in itself, at least.
Could be for you.
Yeah, could be. Yes, it is.
Yeah, so in some ways, you're absolutely right on the ephemeral piece, because I think, for me, when I write things down, it's so great to put something to paper, but my handwriting is hard to read, and I lose the piece of paper. But at the same time, committing it to writing down is actually quite nice as well. So,
That's sort of good news, bad news.
But, to a certain extent, I think we'll have to find that medium. I think that when we start telling ourselves there's one way that everyone should live, we're painting ourselves into a corner. Because the truth is that the world, our brains are not squares. They're these sort of weird undulating circles. And we have to fill in whatever imagined corners we have with what works now. And if we try to do something that used to work or that somebody else tells us work and it doesn't fit our corner, then we have to find something else. But I think that for many people, writing things down or creating something or putting it up on a wall or putting it could be incredibly grounding, but it doesn't have to be. It isn't the only answer. It's one potential answer. And you have to find your own brilliant path.
It's so important that there is a huge choice, a huge diversity. The way to go is not to specialize and make everybody the same. The way to succeed is to welcome differences and make the most of everybody's and every animal's and every plant's way of living to improve the future, because that's the way I think nature is organized. I think that nature is pretty smart.
My childhood was spent having my father have moments like this and it being so intriguing and brilliant and thoughtful, and me nodding my head and like I just love that type of dialogue.
Well, now you see, I should write it down because I'm completely forgetting.
I have the same problem. We share that. One thing that I think is fantastic about my father is the rhythm of his life. Like he does the same things at the same time and make sure that he lives in the way that he knows is comfortable and collected on a day-to-day basis.
You mean I have a routine? Well, I've just described that is not the best.
No, that fits into your model because you live into that specific scenario. You're saying there should be the availability of diversity so that all people can thrive. Just because you're thriving in your particular corner doesn't invalidate that point. It's not mutually inclusive.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I saved you. But my point being is that I'm very different than my father, and yet at the same time I can very much appreciate the way that he does things and think they're brilliant and think it's wonderful and be inspired by that and try to emulate it as best I can. But again, I'm made of slightly different stuff, and so it's so nice. And that's one of the things I love about theater and love about that is you can inhabit different spaces and see what other people can do, so you can get another slice of that diversity. And it's wonderful to be aware of others while at the same time trying to live your own happy life in the things that are meaningful to oneself.
That's something that's brilliant. The theatre.
Yeah.
The theatre.
Well, we do. That's a family. That's a certainly family thing. We all agree is brilliant.
Yes.
I mean, that's something that's on my list. Is the opportunity to do Christmas Carol with both of you.
Oh.
Like seriously, the energy and the family element and these lovely little teaching moments that happen as part of the backstage world is one of the really wonderful things about that show, and my experience of it, at least. So that's on my list.
Thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it. And you both are truly brilliant members of our family here at Open Stage, and we're lucky to have you. So thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.